December always feels like the month when gardens go quiet, leaves drop, beds empty out, and, well, many gardeners hang up their tools until spring. But on SoilPower, we don't pause. We transform the so-called dead season into one of the most powerful soil-building opportunities of the entire year. And today, I want to show you how 5 winter-hardy plants can rebuild your soil while everything else sleeps, and how you can take this even further by converting them into plant-based fertilizers, or FPJs, for explosive growth once spring returns. This isn't theory. These 5 winter survivors are the backbone of my December soil strategy, plants that don't just endure the cold, but actively recharge, remineralize, detoxify, aerate, and supercharge the soil naturally. Whether you're a beginner looking to understand winter gardening or an experienced grower ready to level up your soil health game, consider this your ultimate evergreen guide. Let's get right into the real, practical, gardener-tested stuff. If SoilPower had a mascot, it would be comfrey, especially the Bocking 14 variety. Even when frost hits and most plants collapse, comfrey's roots keep working underground. Those roots plunge deep, sometimes more than 6 feet, into subsoil layers where nutrients hide from shallow-rooted plants. The magic here is nutrient mining. Comfrey pulls up potassium, phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, and trace minerals, then stores them in its thick, nutrient-dense leaves. In December, above-ground growth slows, but the plant is still alive, still working, still storing power. Cutting comfrey even in winter gives you mineral-rich green biomass you can compost, mulch with, or ferment into FPJ. When you turn comfrey into a liquid fertilizer, you create one of the strongest organic growth boosters available to home gardeners. Its FPJ strengthens stems, boosts flowering, improves fruit set, and increases resilience, especially early in the season when young plants are establishing their first burst of growth. Even if this is your first year trying homemade fertilizers, comfrey FPJ is the easiest and most effective place to begin. If comfrey mines minerals, nettle manufactures nitrogen. Stinging nettle remains surprisingly resilient in cold conditions, especially in regions with mild winters. Even when frost burns the edges, the inner stems and roots continue producing new shoots. Nettle is incredibly nutrient-dense, packed with nitrogen, chlorophyll, iron, silica, phytonutrients, and natural growth hormones. You know, gardeners often underestimate how valuable winter nettle is. When daylight shortens and biological activity drops, nettle still adds fresh organic matter to the soil and continues feeding microbes beneath the surface. Its root system breaks up compacted layers, which improves drainage and aeration, both essential for healthy spring planting. But honestly, the real power comes from turning winter nettle into FPJ. Nettle FPJ produces richer leaf color, faster vegetative growth, and thicker cell walls, helping young crops stand up to early pests and disease. The deep green you see in your plants after a foliar feed, well, that's nettle's signature. If you grow leafy greens, brassicas, herbs, or fruit trees, nettle FPJ is a tool you'll use all season long. Mustard is the winter survivor that doesn't get enough credit. While it may look delicate, mustard greens tolerate cold far better than most people expect, especially hardy winter varieties. The real benefit, however, happens underground. Mustard releases natural biofumigants, sulfur-based compounds that help reduce soil-borne pests, fungal spores, and harmful nematodes. December is the perfect month to use mustard strategically. When you chop mustard and incorporate it lightly into the soil, those sulfur compounds activate and suppress pathogens that would otherwise plague spring seedlings. It's like pressing the reset button on your soil's health. Mustard also produces organic acids that free up locked nutrients, improving your soil's availability of phosphorus and micronutrients. And when fermented into FPJ, mustard becomes a surprisingly potent vegetative stimulant. Plants treated with mustard FPJ often develop thicker stems and noticeably stronger root systems. It's a booster I rely on when I want to toughen up young transplants or prepare heavy-feeding crops like tomatoes and peppers for robust early growth. So, kale and collards aren't just food crops, they're soil workers too. These brassicas keep producing biomass even when temperatures dip low enough to stop most growth. Now, they aren't explosive growers in winter, but what they do produce is steady, consistent, nutrient-rich foliage that keeps soil microbes fed. What really makes kale and collards special is their balanced nutrient profile. They contain nitrogen, magnesium, calcium, and a wide range of trace minerals which, makes their FPJ highly versatile. While comfrey fermented plant juice drives flowering and nettle fermented plant juice pushes leaf growth, kale fermented plant juice is honestly the happy middle ground that supports both root strength and above-ground vigor. Kale and collards also produce glucosinolates, which are compounds that break down into natural pest reduction agents. When chopped into soil or added to compost, they help clean up root rot fungi and suppress early-season brassica pests. Winter rye might look simple, but it's actually a soil-building machine. For decades, professional growers have relied on rye as a cover crop because of how aggressively it pushes roots into cold, compacted soil. These roots open air channels, improve drainage, and feed microbes during the months when biological activity usually slows down. Rye produces dense root mats that add organic carbon to the earth. That carbon is priceless. It holds moisture, feeds microbes, and forms the backbone of fertile soil. Rye also produces natural compounds that suppress weeds, giving your garden a cleaner, healthier start in spring. When turned into FPJ, rye offers a surprising benefit. It triggers rapid root expansion. Plants treated with rye FPJ tend to show thicker root zones, more lateral roots, and greater drought tolerance. If you want strong seedlings or resilient fruit trees, rye FPJ is a secret weapon worth keeping. This is where December really becomes a power month for SoilPower gardeners. Creating FPJ from winter survivors allows you to bottle all that cold season resilience and unleash it on your spring crops. The process is simple, and once you've done it once or twice, it becomes second nature. The quality of your FPJ really comes down to one core principle: you gotta use the right ratios. Start with freshly harvested plant material. Early morning harvests always provide the best results, since that's when nutrient levels really peak. Rinse lightly if necessary, but avoid soaking the plants and don't use chlorinated water. After chopping the plant material into small pieces, weigh it carefully. Whatever that weight is, match it exactly with an equal weight of brown sugar. The sugar is what extracts the plant's bioactive compounds and triggers the fermentation that creates FPJ. Mix the chopped plants and sugar thoroughly, massaging the sugar into the tissues until they start to release liquid. Then, pack the mixture into a jar, filling it to about 70% capacity to allow room for fermentation gases. Cover the jar with a breathable cloth rather than a sealed lid. FPJ requires airflow, not pressure. Place the jar in a warm, dark area and let it ferment for 5 to 7 days. Once the liquid rises and the plant material softens, strain the mixture through a clean cloth. The liquid you collect is your FPJ, and it will store for months if kept in a cool place. So, different plants actually yield different amounts of FPJ. Some plants just give you more, while others a bit less, Comfrey produces the most thanks to its high moisture content, while mustard and rye tend to produce slightly less. But honestly, regardless of how much you get, the real potency comes from the fermentation, not just the volume. It doesn't matter how powerful your FPJ is if you dilute it incorrectly. If it's too strong, you can shock your plants, but if it's too weak, well, you lose effectiveness. It's all about finding that sweet spot. The dilution ratio that consistently works is 1 tablespoon of FPJ per 5 liters of water. That comes out to a 1 to 500 dilution, which is the standard across Korean natural farming. For a typical 10 square meter garden bed, you'll need 10 to 12 liters of mixed solution to water the whole area properly. That means 2 tablespoons, about 30 milliliters, of FPJ is enough for an entire application. If you're treating individual potted plants or seedlings, a few liters will get the job done. Always apply in the morning or at dusk when leaves can absorb nutrients without burning. Soil application feeds your underground microbes, while foliar feeding triggers direct plant uptake through the leaves. Doing both every 7 to 10 days is the sweet spot that keeps plants consistently active and growing. Here's something I encourage all SoilPower gardeners to try. Choose 2 of the winter survivors and make 2 separate FPJs. Then pick 2 identical plants, same variety, same age, same conditions, and treat each one with a different FPJ over the course of 4 weeks. This simple experiment will teach you more about plant nutrition than any gardening book ever could. You'll see firsthand how nettle FPJ greens leaves faster, how comfrey boosts flowering, how mustard strengthens stems, or how rye drives root growth. By observing your plants weekly, taking simple notes, and comparing results, you'll build your own personal data that makes you a better grower year after year. This is what SoilPower is all about, empowering gardeners through knowledge and real-world experimentation, not guesswork. December doesn't have to be a dormant month. When you plant, harvest, chop, ferment, and apply winter survivors the right way, you turn the cold season into the most transformative part of your gardening cycle. These plants don't just sit in the ground. They feed microbes, mine nutrients, sanitize soil, improve structure, and store minerals you can unleash later as fermented plant juice. Over time, the benefits really add up. Year after year, your soil becomes richer, looser, darker, and more alive. And as every experienced grower knows, healthy soil means unstoppable plants. If you found this guide helpful and you want more real, practical, experiment-driven gardening strategies, make sure you subscribe to SoilPower and share this article with another gardener who needs it. The more we grow together, the stronger our soil and our gardens become.